All right. Well, welcome everyone. We are so excited to have you here for the 2021 Virtual SC Summit on Early Childhood from the Start. Just a couple of housekeeping reminders. We'd ask that you use the chat tab on the right-hand side of your screen to ask any questions throughout the presentation. And at the end, I'll be collecting those as we go, but feel free to put questions there and we'll raise them to our presenters at the end. You can also interact with people through the People tab on the right side of the screen. If you would like to connect with someone, you can request an opportunity to meet up with them in the networking function that's on the left side of the screen. We also invite you to visit our exhibitor booths to learn more about the services and organizations that our states offer to our youngest children. And today, I'm so excited to have our three speakers for this session. We have a couple of great presenters from a couple of different locations, but the title of this presentation is Growing Outdoors, a Healthy Start for Early Childhood. And our first presenter is going to be Dr. Nilda Costco. She's a research associate professor at the Natural Learning Initiative College of Design at NC State University in Raleigh, North Carolina. Then we're going to have Misty Pearson, who is an early care and education consultant at the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. And then rounding out this presentation is Janice Ironside, a director and owner of Mega Child Development Center in Gilbert, South Carolina. So please welcome our three presenters. And again, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box on the right side of your screen. Nilda, go ahead.
Thank you. Misty?
All right, good morning, everybody. I want to say a few words before Nilda gets started. So thank you for joining our presentation. I'm here at Mega in Gilbert with Janice, so we're on screen together. But have you ever been in the situation where somebody asks you a question and you go to find the answer and it leads you down a rabbit hole full of opportunities and possibilities that you didn't know existed? That's pretty much been our journey in South Carolina as it relates to outdoor learning. It was not on our radar when we started this back in 2013. And since then, we have been slowly and quietly building a movement around outdoor play and learning environments. So Nilda's going to give you some perspective of the big picture, and then I'm going to share a little bit about what we've been doing at the state level. And then Janice will give you that very local, on the ground, what does it look like in action perspective. All right, Nilda, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Misty. And I'm so happy to be here. And I want to say I feel part of this team like if we were all together in the same room because we have been working for so long together. So let me go with this presentation. First, I really want to highlight the importance of this idea of One Health. What we do for the environment is good for the people, it's good for the animals, it's good for everybody. So when we think of these projects, we always think we are dealing with One Health because the health of humankind, animals, the environment, biosphere is interwoven in this single interdependent diverse system. So here it is the importance of this type of work. And look at what the benefits of natural outdoor environments are. So please keep in mind when you take on any of these projects, all the things you are doing for health, especially today when the outdoors is probably the environment of choice because of the pandemic, where there is ample space and air circulation in a way that you cannot have indoors. So the outdoors supports physical activity, boosts the immune system. This is absolutely proven with a lot of research that you will find in the bottom of this slide if you want to read more. And if you are more interested, just drop us a note. We will help you with resources. It reduces allergies and asthma incidence, alleviates stress. And we know that because when we are really stressed out, what do? We go out and have a walk, right? And supports attention functioning. We know that the children that play outside and come back and do some type of task, the performance is better. and reduces the prevalence of myopia, that is nearsightedness. Imagine this. Being outdoors can even help with eye health. So how this works? Well, there is this unity of environmental biodiversity and a stronger immune system. When we have these environments that have no diverse plants, the environment is not as rich and as healthy as the ones like in the right here, where these children and parents sometimes and teachers are enjoying a morning. So these environments are based on evidence-based, it's based on research. They contain diverse outdoor activity settings with multiple choices. Why? Because children spend here many, many hours. And you know what? You know better than me. These children come when they are very little and they leave 4 or 5 years later, having been with us in the center every day for most of the year. So these environments need to be diverse, need to be developmental appropriate, and of course, seasonally interesting. Sometimes we have flowers, sometimes we have fruits, sometimes we don't have leaves like now, but the leaves are there for us to help us. We know how the children understand the environment, especially the little children. Imagine infants and toddlers in these environments where the environment is the characteristics of the environment is perceived through all the senses and the movements and the joints. So it's and the layout of this side, the objects that are around, the events, the things that happen. So all of this is very sensorial and very, very attuned with child development stages. So knowing all of this, we have created different programs. One of them is the one we called Preventing Obesity by Design, because we started with the pandemic of obesity, I would say, at that time in the 2005, 2006. This is an early childhood education, built environment design and management intervention. It's all of these together. It's for physical activity, for healthy eating, for social emotional health and nature-based learning. You will say, how is all this packed in one environment? Well, you can see it in this photograph. Here we have tomatoes and we have play equipment and we have a pathway for tricycles and all of that. So this is the richness of these type of environments. We have done this strategy for many, many years. I want you, if you are planning to do something of this in South Carolina, just talk to Misty. She knows it all. But I'll show you how many times we have done this. We started in 2006 with a pilot project, and then we ramped up with many strategies that we developed, and then we polished and did it better and better as time went by, because every time we do one of these initiatives, we learn. And this is in North Carolina, but you know what? We started working with South Carolina early on in 2013, one way or another. And I think I wait for Misty to show that. So you feel that you are already part of this movement. And these strategies have become programs. In South Carolina is the Grow Outdoors, and I led that to Misty to tell us the story. So a little bit about the impact. If you are, wondering how is this had to do with physical activity, well, look at these two different maps. It's the same center before and after renovation. On the right, you have the after renovation center with a pathway around. The dots are children and with physical activity levels. And you can see that the sedentary life movement is replaced in the second drawing or diagram for moderate activity. This is very, very important for children that need to move a little bit more. And this is moderate because children, that's what they do, walk around, run a little bit, but this is not a physical education type of activities. It's just the daily type of activities. We are also looking at the impact of gardening, because we are very, very interested in the healthy eating activities attached or linked to gardening. So we are conducting a research, a randomized control trial, like in medicine, about the importance of having a garden and gardening for children. We have very good results. And of course, the results are telling us that, yes, this type of environment support healthy eating and physical activity. So how these projects work? Well, these are collaborative projects. They receive some seed grants. There is an incremental development approach, long-term commitment, ongoing training, technical assistance, and that creates a shared vision that feeds into the collaborative projects. So this is not something that you will go buy something, install, and say, I'm done. This is a change in the way that the teachers and the centers are working. And I wait for Janice to elaborate on this. So these projects start with the participatory design activities and workshops, that is equity in action, I call it, because everybody has a say. Everybody has a lot of knowledge, especially the people that are the owners and the directors of these centers. And that's the way we work, where they can tell us what they want and how they want it. We only help them to lay out the site and coach them in the implementation. So these sites are much more than outdoor play areas. These here are places for learning through hands-on, for healthy eating, physical activity, community gathering, gardening, STEM, you name it. So how do they look? And is this working? And what is on the ground? Well, let's see some examples. So you imagine on the left, you have a dedicated infant and toddler area. What do you think about these areas? Maybe you have one of these. Well, on the right, you have the after picture. I had the pleasure of visiting this center that is in a shopping center, by the way. Very interesting. And look at the richness of this space and how much more activities can the children do. This is another example, another reconverted place with just parking lots. And so please look at that future green door, because otherwise you won't recognize the site. What this is today. In fact, today is a little bit even better than this one. So this is possible. Yes, it takes a little bit of money, but what it takes the most is the decision to go for it and the knowledge of what to do and how to do. And this spills over into the home environments. These centers have the gardens. These centers extend this to the parents. Most of these centers serve low-income families. And so the families have sometimes a basket with produce at the entrance, with recipes. And the children sometimes teach their parents, how to cook, because they are learning, or how to prepare, perhaps, because they are learning in their classrooms. So we are very interested in assessment, because we cannot do such an amount of work, invest so much money and energy without knowing if this works or not. So we have tools like this one that we call Collect, the Child Care Outdoor Learning Environments Quality Tool, that can be used in a phone, like here by a technical assistant provider here in North Carolina. And we have a lot of materials you can download from our website, a research brief, a policy brief. And this is very important for technical assistant providers, for instructors, for directors, for owners, for teachers that want to circulate these ideas to parents or colleagues. So please go to our website and download all of these free of charge. And if you don't find it, just talk to me or send a message to Misty. And we have toolkits. This is the latest, still not fully out. It's about the best practice indicators for infants and toddlers toolkit. And the one that you can see in our website is currently is the best practice preschool toolkit. that has how to implement the vision, the best practice indicators, how to manage incremental development, balancing risks and benefits, community engagement, and of course a glossary of terms, because this is a different field than for a teacher or an educator. We also has a garden activity guide that can be also downloaded from our website with the phases of the gardening and the activities you can do, including glossary of terms and stories and books selection, etc. Other resources you can download are all these extension publications about gardening with children. And if you want to know more, we still have the certificate programs. The next one is going to go out in February next year, and you can sign in and get a certificate on early childhood outdoor learning environments. There is more in our website. I recommend that you watch this video that is the story of one center here in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's only 3 minutes long, so I hope you can make time for it. Okay, thank you very much. This is all I have to say. I'm going to leave the screen now for Misty. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Nilda. I will pull up my presentation. All right. So as Nilda mentioned, we have been collaborating with NC State for several years. And in one of her slides, you might have noticed the small print that originally our initiative was called Preventing Obesity by Design South Carolina. So we're now Grow Outdoors South Carolina. So I want to share with you a little bit about what we have been doing since 2013 to build this movement. So Grow Outdoors South Carolina, our mission is to increase young children's access to quality, naturalized outdoor environments that support play and learning across all domains of development. And so my initial comment about going down a rabbit hole really started because there was a provider when the new ABC Grow Healthy standards rolled out in 2012 who requested help with the outdoor time. You know, she was taking the children outdoors, but the question was, they're bored. How can I create something outdoors that makes children want to stay outside and engage in the space? And so a lot of you might be familiar with that. If you have just a play structure and some sand, you will see that children quickly can get bored. There may be behavior issues of throwing sand and just throwing balls at each other. And so it was that initial ask of us, DHEC and ABC Quality, that led us to the Natural Learning Initiative. So we initially visited them in 2013. And this is one of those things that you have to see it, my opinion, you have to see it to really understand it and get the full effect. It is just amazing to go visit some of those programs in North Carolina that have been doing this for years and see how their space has grown and the multiple settings and how it's been naturalized. So like I said, we've been doing this for going on 10 years. It's been slow, very purposeful and quiet. But what we're hoping is that in the next year, it will get louder. That is what we're working towards. So we initially launched Preventing Obesity by Design South Carolina in 2015, and then we rebranded to Grow Outdoors in 2020. And so I want to say that, you know, ABC Grow Healthy, if you're familiar with those standards, they really were around nutrition and physical activity. And it was ABC Quality's effort to address the obesity epidemic in children. And so that's really, like Nilda mentioned, where POD is. And so from the public health side, for us, it was a perfect fit. It was obesity prevention. It was outdoors. And so that really would help providers meet the outdoor indicator, or the indicator for outdoor time. But what we've learned over the years is it's so much more than just obesity prevention. And that's why we rebranded to Grow Outdoors. You're growing the space, you can grow fruits and vegetables, but you're growing the children. It's social emotional, all those things Nilda mentioned. And so we felt like Grow Outdoors was a better name to represent what we're really trying to accomplish. So we started, like I mentioned, in 2015, building the evidence. What we saw was that it helps to show a place for sites to be developed so other programs can understand what we're talking about. So we started in Florence County in 2015 with 5 programs, and we added 5 more in 2016 in Spartanburg County. But I think what's important for everybody to know is that from the beginning, we involved child care licensing. I'm sure many of you can speak to the importance of involving licensing, and they're needing to know when changes are made. So they have been involved from the very beginning. We had the director of child care licensing at these initial design workshops. We had the state fire marshal. And so that relationship has continued. And so we've adapted. When we started in 2015, there wasn't honestly a lot of support at the local level. 2016, we tried to do a little better. And then, as you can see, we expanded to 10 additional sites, and that was more of an online arrangement. And you'll hear from Janice Ironside. Mega was involved in that with the 10 additional sites. And so we have learned quite a bit over these years about what this needs to look like, what providers need, what type of support is needed to make this happen. And one piece I want to mention is I absolutely love the Natural Learning Initiative. And I think that Nilda Costco and Robin Moore, who was the founder of the Natural Learning Initiative, are amazing what they do. But we also recognized we needed to try to build some in-state capacity. And so we engaged the Clemson University Department of Landscape Architecture. And so they were involved initially in helping create designs for some sites as well. So we wanted to start developing the sites, but we also needed to start extending our reach. So we have had conversations with partners about what is your interest and capacity to support this. I think, from DHEC standpoint and from ABC Quality, we are very committed to this, but we can't do it alone. And so there was conversation with child care licensing and others. We've talked with First Steps 4K, and we've been involved with Quality Counts to determine people's interest. And so what we found is that there really is an interest in this, not only from providers, but from the state level programs and agencies. And so one of the things that we thought would help with reach is that ABC Quality integrated outdoor learning environment indicators for infants and toddlers. I think it was probably back in 2018 when they revised those. And so if you're in ABC Quality, you're very familiar with that. And they're based on the model of preventing obesity by design. It focused on how many settings you have in the space for infants and toddlers. And then we talked about naturalization in that indicator. And so that has been important because what we've seen is that a lot of programs are not meeting or achieving that indicator. That is not surprising because it's a new idea and concept. So that is something that through Grow Outdoors, we're hoping that in time we will see more programs meeting that indicator. And then Nilda mentioned the outdoor learning certificate. So I am excited to say that we have funded approximately 75 in the last 2 to 3 years to go through the certificate course. And I think what I'm most excited about with that is that almost all of the child care licensing staff have been through the course, and the fire marshals. And then we've had resource and referral staff and the program for infant and toddler care. And we've had the inclusion collaborative. And so what we really felt was important is that if you are a program that's going to be implementing this, you need the people that are providing oversight and regulation and technical assistance to be on the same page. We need to have a clear understanding of what is an outdoor learning environment. And so this course, this 12-week course that all these people have gone through really helps them understand what does this look like, because this is not your typical environment. It's not the manufactured equipment, which is what the regulations are really based upon. So we're excited that we've had so many go through the course, and the most recent round, we started to add in a few more providers into the course. So we have been really pleased with the success of that and the positive feedback we've received from licensing and others. Along with that, we have been focused on policy, knowing that changing regulations isn't something that we set out to do. And even right now, it's not what we are trying to do. But what we thought was important was, what do the regulations say in regards to naturalized outdoor environments? So we actually worked with the Natural Learning Initiative at NC State to review the South Carolina child care regulations. And so they created this document for us that looks at the regulations, and then it puts each one in the context of outdoor learning. And, does this make sense? What does this mean for outdoor learning? I'm trying to think of a specific example, and nothing comes to mind right now. And then they actually had recommended language that if we wanted to work towards making changes, they gave recommended language that would be supportive of a more naturalized outdoor environment. So the document was completed, but it has not been released publicly. So that is one document we have had developed and we're using internally. Another document that we're excited about is this selected preschool outdoor activity settings. And so one of the things we learned is that we have worked with a limited number of programs. So initially we worked with 20 programs across a few years to receive a design plan. But as more and more programs started to hear about this, they wanted assistance, whether it was from resource and referral or program for infant and toddler care or ABC quality. And often the questions would get into design, which none of us should be doing. That's not our role. We're not designers. And so we have this resource that NLI created for us that talks about the settings. So what if you are a child care center and you want to put in a primary pathway? So this explains, it defines it. It talks about the basic requirements. It talks about the considerations. And what is nice is it includes, what does this say from the regulation standpoint, the South Carolina child care regulations? And so currently the document has 10 settings, and it's really a resource to help programs who maybe don't want to go through a long involved process to get a design plan, but they want to know how to install a stage or an area for earth play. And so it goes through 10 settings, and we're collaborating right now to expand the document to an additional 20 settings. So hopefully next year there will be an expanded version. And so that leads to our demonstration sites. So like I mentioned, we rebranded to Grow Outdoors South Carolina, and we had 20 programs that had over the years received a design plan. And so we offered the opportunity to these programs to apply to be a demonstration site, with our goal being that we wanted these sites that were selected to be able to speak to what it means to have an outdoor play and learning environment, and what have they had to deal with from parents and licensing, and what are the challenges and the barriers and the successes. And then we want them to be able to offer tours to other programs. And so the 7 sites, there are 7, were selected this past spring, and we are working with them to make sure that they have at least the 10 settings. So we are still developing out these sites, and they'll get information and training and talking points. But I did want to share with you our 7 sites, and hopefully in the near future, they will be up and ready to host tours and potentially trainings. So we have 3 in the upstate. We have Miss Tammy's Little Learning Center in Landrum. And I tried to include a picture that represents their space. And Miss Tammy's had already done a lot. They were one of those programs that had before we even discovered NLI, had already started investing in naturalizing their space. Unique Kids at Davis Academy in Greenville. This picture is a great example of the changes they have made. So when we started working with them, that if you can see that little, I guess the red walkway, that's all it was from the fence to the front door. And it was just grass on the side. There was no trellis. And so they have these garden beds. There's two there. There's two on the other side you can't see. And this beautiful trellis that's been added that just makes the front entrance so welcoming. So now when parents come to pick up their children, they're walking through this space where you see these garden beds. And in the distance there, you can see they've added a stage for dramatic play. And then our third site in the upstate is UU World of Children, also located in Greenville. They were another site that had their Montessori program. So they have a long history of outdoor play and naturalizing the space. And so you can see here, they have the pathway. They have a stage to the right. They have sand play. So once these sites are up and ready, I think y'all will be very impressed with what they've created in a short amount of time. All right, so we have another 3 here. Angels Inn in Florence. I do not have a recent, but they were one of the first sites, because we started in Florence, to put in their pathway. They did an amazing job. So this is their pathway. They now actually have a shade structure in the middle there to provide some shade when the children are outdoors playing. We have McLeod Child Development Center in Florence also. And you can see here they added a dry creek bed, which the children just like to run and play on, turn over the rocks. And in the distance, you can also see they have a stage area. And then we have Troy Johnson Learning Corner in Mullins. This is their toddler area, and they had this initial loop. And so with their design plan, the pathway was expanded. They have, if you can, probably can't see it very well, but in the back corner, they've added a sandbox. They've added these pergolas children can ride through. And so they have done an amazing job adding to their space, putting in the pathways. They've added arbors and gardens and a sand play. And so just a tremendous job from all of these sites. And then, of course, our last site is Mega Child Development Center. They are located here in the Midlands area in Gilbert. And so Janice also had a history when she was at another program of being interested in naturalizing her outdoor space. And so that carried over when she came to Mega. So I'm going to turn it over to Janice to share about what they've done here at Mega and show you some exciting pictures. So here, let me get situated. Okay, you sit and then I'll. You're back.
Oh, hi, I'm Janice Ironside, with director and owner of Mega Child Development Center. And we, being from Hawaii, we spent a lot of time outdoors. We ate all of our meals outdoors under a lanai because it's not common to have air conditioning in buildings or in homes. So it was much cooler and breezier to be outside throughout our meals. And we spent at least 4 hours, 5 hours a day outside, just because of the weather being nicer outside than stuffy inside. Anyways, I brought when we came to South Carolina, I brought that concept of wanting to spend a lot of time outside here, and let's see. Yeah. This is kind of where we started. It was actually in 2000 we opened Mega, and then in 2010 I went to Newberry for 4 years, but came back, and so now we're here. This was before and after 2017 to 2021. As you see, I had all the little Tykes play equipment, and we found that children didn't really use it much. They did it first, but then they just would sit underneath it for shade. Now we've got a big, we've added, you can see our dramatic play area, our teepee, and our, we actually have a shade sail over the top of this
Janice,
area.
Janice, this is Carrie. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we cannot see the slides. If you or Misty can share again.
It's trying.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, everyone. Just bear with us for a moment.
I can share if you like.
Too many people online.
I'm not sure. Hold on. No, I don't think it's that. Let me just. Nilda, can you share?
Yes.
And let's see if we can, because ours is just locked up on us, it looks like. So hold on, let me see if we can.
It's sharing now, I think.
Carrie, we're going to have to come out and come back in.
Okay.
It's locked us out.
Okay. All right. Everyone, thank you for just hanging in there for a few minutes. If anyone has any questions.
Yeah, we can take some questions if just to make a good use of this time.
And Dr. Costco, I did share the professional development and the outdoor toolkit link in the chat for our attendees, and I'll share all of the other links again at the end. If you wanted to talk specifically about either of those, what's at the links that we'll be sharing.
Okay, I think we have the links also about the COVID support.
Mm-hmm.
So we have worked a lot to make the outdoors better in this time of pandemic, where we need to create these bubbles or cohorts of children with one teacher. So create these kind of rooms outdoors to be able to separate the groups in a sense and keep them still outside and playing and learning. I think our colleagues are back. Do you, Misty, do you want to use my screen or your screen?
That's fine. That's fine. Go ahead. We're back in.
Okay, so you tell me when to change.
Yeah, next slide.
One more.
Next. Okay, here we can see our mound, our oops. Okay, here you can see our gardens.
Yes.
We'll do it together.
Okay, there's our mound, our bike track, and then we have a little I don't know, it was meant to be like a tunnel for them to go through. My husband got a little crazy on that, and build it up more than I had planned, but it's fine. And then we have our music center. Again, my husband had gone to garage sales and just got some old pots and pans and connected them. We use buckets, and then we've got like wooden spoons and actually a couple of real drumsticks that they use. And again, stuff like that has to come in every night. So that's a teacher's responsibility to have to bring it in. The only way for this to be successful is if you have a team of teachers and families too. Everybody has to be on board for it to be successful. You can go to the next slide. Okay, our gardens. In in the summer, we grow tomatoes, zucchini, watermelon, honeydew, cantaloupe. In the fall and winter, our best success has been lettuce and collards, and we keep gardening year round. Our next slide. This is our teepee. You see, we started with the teepee on the left, and then over time we moved into a bamboo. It was much lighter, and the teepee we have Carolina jasmine and blueberries growing up the side of the teepee. Next slide. We have try to get a water source, so they have outdoor water play. And the best thing that we found, this is a trough for animals, I believe cows, and you could fill that up, and it's really lightweight, and you can dump it easily at the end of the day when you want to use your Clorox and wipe it out, your Clorox solution. And then we have our open areas, and then we have this a seating circle. So usually they'll, with books and so forth, they'll sit over there. They like to play teacher. Our next slide. This is showing our stage area, and it's right by our sandbox. And again, the seating there is the stumps, the tree stumps. Next slide. Again, to have real success, you have to have your teachers on board as well as your families. So this teacher here is, really involved in the play. She actually, we use a lot of recycled materials in our sandbox because they last, maybe a month. You have to go through that almost on a daily basis to find anything that might be cracked or, or broken or piece missing. That is actually a kitty litter box thing that kitty litter comes in, and then and once it's due, we recycled it to use in there and took off the labels. Our next slide. This is just our music center with our teacher working with a child in the music center. I think the children in the middle have a glasses on, but I think they made a campfire with rocks, and they put some pieces of wood on it, and they were saying that they were roasting marshmallows. And then on the right, you see in that earlier circle, they were reading books. Here again is our circle where our circle. The teacher was doing some outdoor lessons, and the middle picture is Solana cutting some lettuce. And we use scissors with the lettuce, and then the child on the right is just looking at the tomatoes. Next slide. Again, adding the play value. So in this interest area, we have, it was like a fairy garden. And so we had, just some rocks and shells and different things. And again, you can see the border just to outline the center is just some pieces of lumber and wood chips. Very easy. Didn't cost anything really. There's some more of that little fairy garden that we're doing, and again, some more of the campfire that the children made. We can go to the next slide. There we go. This again, the recycling. You see the little girl there has a spice container, just a plastic spice container. We've got a Folgers thing, a coffee container, and again, just being able to, you can buy all the sand toys. They are expensive, but also you can add to your own. You want them to have lots of options out there. Again, a lot of them use it for dramatic play, and and fantasy play, and it doesn't have to cost a whole lot. Our next slide. This was one teacher, Miss Audrey, did this, and she now that picture was a little bit older, but now we have all herbs in it. Different herbs, basil, rosemary, thyme, and she put letters on them with permanent marker like A, B, C, D, and she had them. So when they wanted to water the plants, she would be, why don't you go water F and see what's in F. And so that was interesting. And then we just hung those on our fence. This little girl again, she just cut some of her lettuce, and we used the food for our food service. We're on CACFP, and we incorporate that into our food service that we serve the children and teachers. The next slide. This is our bike track. These are some zucchini that we have grown, and we did it into a math lesson with measuring them, and we do just different activities to incorporate different items with our produce, and we really want to prior to the pandemic, we parents came into the yard and sat. We had benches for them, and they sat and they spent a little time with the children. Since the pandemic, we had stopped parents at the gate. We have pickup at the gate, so because they are outside a lot of the time, and so we're going to be bringing that back where the parents can come back in. When we're outside, children don't wear masks, so it's real easy for everybody, and so I think, was that the last slide? Okay.
Yes.
There we go. Do we have any questions?
Hey, Janice, this is Carrie Corden at First Steps. I was wondering, this is so exciting. I love this work. This is what I've spent years studying. But can you talk a little bit about the parents' receptiveness to this and any feedback that you've received from the parents about their children or the teaching, how that's been going?
Yeah. When we do a family orientation, when a child is going to start on our program, we it's in our policies about how much time we spend outdoors, and we will go outside between 45 degrees and 90 degrees. And we usually spend an hour and a half in the morning and an hour and a half or more in the afternoon, up to 4 to 5 hours outside. So during the orientation, and then we take them outside and we show them the benefits, cognitive benefits, and physical benefits for their children. And we show them, we give them a tour of the outside just as much as we give them a tour of the inside. The parents love it. They especially like it when they get to bring home veggies or fruits, and that their children are participating in that. One thing that we have been told, a lot of parents tell us, is that my child never liked to eat cucumbers or lettuce or had salad. Love salad now. We got salad. We have salad with chicken on top is one of our favorites on the menu. And a lot of stuff is from our garden.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so many benefits of outdoor natural learning.
Right. And if you let the parents know from the beginning that this is what we do, they're all seem to be on board with it. They really enjoy it. They have to dress for it.
Right.
So as it's getting colder, we have to remind them, we need, heavier jackets or hats. You can always take it off, but we want a lot.
Right. I'll encourage people that are here to put questions in the chat. But I had another question for Dr. Costco and Misty. We have a lot of people that aren't necessarily on the ground working in centers, but help to support centers. So I wanted to hear from you about how these, perhaps the local First Steps executive directors or other agencies that work with centers, how can they best support those centers in pursuing outdoor learning environments?
So one thing I didn't share is that, through these years of doing this, we've learned a lot of lessons about what works and what doesn't, and trying to be consistent in our messaging. And so Grow Outdoors has evolved into basically a process. And so we hope to fully launch it next year. But it is a process that childcare providers would go through to actually receive a design plan. And so where that connects to other agencies like First Steps and Quality Counts is starting with that course. We're trying to get everybody on the same page about what is outdoor learnings, what do we mean by settings. And so that's why we've, engaged 4K, we've engaged Resource and Referral and others. But the process, Grow Outdoors, would be the model that everybody in the state would follow. And so we have First Steps 4K at the table. We have Quality Counts. We've got Resource and Referral. And so when this launches, it would be that if programs want to receive a design plan, they would need to go through this process that basically everybody is on board with. First Steps, Quality Counts, R&R, DHEC, ABC. And that means they would actually go through the 12-week course. They would do some implementation of the knowledge, then they'd go through the design piece, then they would go through implementation and get some training. And so that's really been our strategy, is to try to work at the state level to make sure we're all coordinated. So that's the design piece. And hopefully this is answering your question. Mm-hmm. The other piece is we know that a lot of programs aren't going to want to go through the whole process. And so those resources we're developing, like the preschool settings document, anybody could take that. Somebody in First Steps or Program for Infant and Toddler Care could use that to work with the program to say, okay, you want to create this, here's some guidance on how to do that type thing. The other thing we're hoping will happen is that we're hoping in the near future there will be an expansion and the possibility of a website for Grow Outdoors where programs could connect with somebody at the website to get some ideas and suggestions. So there's a lot of behind the scenes. Again, I hope I'm answering this. There's a lot of behind the scenes at the state level trying to make sure we're all on the same page and nobody's recreating, because it's just easier if we all collaborate. It's easier for the provider to know that this is one way, but there are lots of resources out there. I mean, anybody can go do it on their own without a design plan. We would just encourage them to reach out to First Steps R&R and use some of those resources they've learned in the course or that we're developing. So at least we know providers are getting the same message, whether they're in the upstate or the low country.
Yeah, thank you. No, that was exactly what I was hoping to bring out because I know we have some EDs and some other people on that would be interested in that. So do we have any other questions or anything that our presenters would like to raise?
I think there is an interesting comment. Sorry, Janice. Sorry.
Go ahead.
An interesting comment in the chat. Maria Arroyo is saying, please include parenting centers in your program. I think that could be a great idea. I support that, Maria.
And I would say that's one of the things we've learned is that there has to be a parent education component, or not even parent necessarily in childcare, but we just in general need a campaign, which is what we talked about why outdoors is important. What is the value of outdoor learning? Because a lot of people truly do go to a facility and they see the big structure and it's like the Taj Mahal. They have this big play equipment. This must be a really nice thing, because they don't understand the value in having a naturalized environment that has multiple settings where children can engage. Right. You're going to say something, Janice.
Oh, I was just going to say, one of the major changes is our trees. We've got river birch, maple, apple trees, avocado that we've planted, and those are actually exciting to me and to the children. And the children can name the trees in our yard too.
Fun. That's great. It seems like a lot of opportunity to engage with other industries that early childhood doesn't normally engage with, like agriculture and other things like that. So really really fascinating. I don't see any other questions. We do have a few more minutes so we can hang around, but I just wanted to extend our thanks to Dr. Nilda Costco and Misty Pearson and Janice Ironside for their presentation today. This session has been recorded, so those of you that are here, please share with others if they'd like to come back and watch this at a later date. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.